All right, well, what's today?
Today is Friday, May 30th.
Friday, May 30th. Listen, Outdoor Cats, we were on the patio / whatever parking lot / piece of pavement outside of Ralph's Rock Diner, having a very well-deserved beer after a hard day's work in the content mines. Nah, just kidding. We had a very delightful little interview with Ashley Spring on her back porch. It was really nice. It was. I've never talked to Ashley that much. Just knew who she was, so I don't know, it was a really, really nice talk, and I think people will find it illuminating, because Ashley was there for the entirety of the Eureka Street thing.
Also just another person who's newer to Worcester, who's kind of jumped into activism and community organizing with both feet, and who is a really cool person that I also did not know at all. Today was the first time I met Ashley, actually met Ashley. We've talked a little bit here and there, but I had been looking forward to us getting a chance at some point to interview her as a school committee candidate. As folks may know, or certainly you will hear about in the interview, Ashley is no longer a school committee candidate due to some fucking chicanery by Worcester's worst.
Tom ass foolery.
Yeah, but we got to talk to her anyway, and it was a really great conversation. I'm looking forward to everybody getting to hear it.
Yeah. Probably before we get to the interview tape, I should say we were cagey about talking about the Eureka Street arrest.
Yes.
Because we don't want Ashley saying anything that could hurt or even just get her defense attorney mad at her. But
as we all know, the rule number one when you're dealing with the cops is don't talk to the cops, and it's good to note that includes talking to them indirectly, through a Dirtbag Left podcast that they might try to get access to.
We should paywall this one just so they have to. So somebody in the DA's office has to buy a subscription.
So we didn't talk about the specifics of that directly, but we do talk about it a little bit, and we talk about Ashley's nascent candidacy for school committee and kind of the way that came crashing down through no fault of her own, and some other interesting stuff about what she thinks about Worcester and how she's been involved with stuff here, and I thought it was less depressing conversation than maybe I'd originally thought it was going to be.
They.
Oh, yeah, I forgot to ask their pronouns.
They are in very good spirits, all things considered.
Yeah. Having been through several boatloads of shit lately. So one of the things we forgot to talk about until right at the very end was how after the arrest, Ashley put up a GoFundMe, and then GoFundMe surreptitiously canceled it out of nowhere. And you know what we didn't even talk about? Even a little bit, and we should have? The fucking guy that was following Ashley around. Oh, yeah.
That fucking Michael Moore looking douchebag.
I don't fucking remember his name. It's not important. He's a dime a dozen fucking loser freak.
Yeah, so after the demonstration the Tuesday after Eureka Street, the one that was held outside City Hall when the council met remotely for the first time ever. Some fucking right-wing weirdo was filming Ashley, taping it, being a jerk, and that's just some of the stuff you got to deal with when you stand up for what's right. Unfortunate, but
their response was so great though, just being you're a fucking weird freak. Like, get away from me. It's exactly how you handle that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you're the one coming up to me. You're the one being weird here. But yeah, so for people who don't know, Ashley was one of the first people at the scene at the Eureka Street thing, there to do, Ice Watch stuff in keeping with the program that Luce and Neighbor to Neighbor have put together. Ashley caught criminal charges from the Worcester Police Department, who definitely did not help ICE and were not there to assist ICE in any way, but they still threw charges. One of them is a felony, assault with a dangerous weapon. You'll never believe, if you don't already know, you will never guess what the dangerous weapon is a baby bottle. A baby bottle that was just minutes previous in the mouth of a literal baby.
Yeah.
The police officer that got a splash of water on him from the baby bottle turns around immediately, points at Ashley, and goes, "I'm charging you with assault. I'm charging you with disorderly conduct," whatever he said. It's on the body camera footage. It's public record. He says right then that it's water. So why does the court documents read unknown liquid?
Yeah, I mean, I think we can all sort of guess how and why the police might have some motivations to make things seem worse than what they do. But I was thinking about this in a way that was kind of making me laugh. When criminal charges like that, specifically the charge of assault with a deadly weapon or dangerous weapon, however it is that they word it, it brackets usually afterwards and says to wit and then what the dangerous weapon was. One of my favorite ones is shod foot, which is just a foot with a shoe on it.
With a shoe on it, yeah.
I'm guessing maybe one of their motivations was they didn't want to charge them with assault with a dangerous weapon, to wit baby bottle full of water.
Right. Well, and it's also just like unknown liquid. When you put that in the press release, it implies a sense of foreboding and a sense of danger that's in keeping with the narrative of that being a chaotic scene that the WPD was there to bravely and righteously correct. Of course, what actually happened was they turned it immediately upon arrival into an extremely chaotic scene. They were the chaos agent.
Yeah.
And also, I'm pretty sure, but I'm not sure, and this is why we did not have Ashley talk about this one bit. The unknown liquid is the legal terminology necessary to elevate that to a felony.
Yeah.
Could
have been a baby bottle filled with battery acid or gasoline, that a baby was just drinking.
Yeah, right. Crazy. Well, anyway, we should just play the tape, I think. Hopefully this recording will be usable. We'll see. And if not, whatever. The interview is what we're all really here for. So. So we are out here in the lovely back porch area of Ashley Spring's house. Ashley, how are you doing today? How's it going?
I'm having a good day. It's a good day. Had the day off. Been chilling, cleaning.
Excellent.
Happy to have you guys here now.
You have had quite the past couple weeks.
I have, indeed.
Yes. God, it's like, I don't know. I don't even know where to begin. We understand that you have an open case, so we don't want to say or talk about anything that's going to make that difficult for you or your attorneys, but I don't know, Chris. Where do you think we should start? I think should we ask you why what got you down to Eureka Street that day? Why you were there?
Several community members have been involved in rapid response trainings through the Luce network since as far back as like March.
Yeah.
It was a response for the Luce hotline.
Right. And now correct me if I'm wrong, but you were one of the first people at the scene.
Right. Correct.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
I was.
So I don't know. Could you obviously the entire world at this point has seen the 5 minutes after the Worcester Police Department arrived, but could maybe sketch out a little bit about what it was like sort of in the minutes before that.
Yeah. So it was a good hour and a half before that, actually.
Right.
And it was pretty chill at first. We came up and tried to initiate some conversation. The main guy, whoever he was rude, of course, wanted us to keep backing off and kind of asserting himself in more aggressive ways. So we just kind of stood back and recorded for a good hour and a half before any of the footage that, the general public has seen. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right.
So ICE was there when folks started to get there already?
Yeah, they were. The two girls and the baby were inside the car, and there was about 6 ICE officers standing outside of the car.
As far as we know, ICE officers, because as we've talked about, they did not have really any identification or choose to identify themselves or really explain to anyone at all really what was going on, as far as I understand it.
Right. That's right.
Right. Certainly in the videos depicted, the scene depicted in the body camera footage and in other videos that have been posted online, the ICE agents, or the quote unquote ICE agents, are not saying anything besides "move, get out of our way," while the WPD is saying, at one point, one of the cops goes, "No, look, they'll explain. They'll explain."
Yes.
They just didn't explain. But before that, was there any explanation given that you can recall?
No, not at all. I mean, there were a couple of times that people tried to initiate some discussion with them about whether the girls could use the bathroom or whether they could have some privacy with the baby. But that was a big no. And there was no female officer there either, so there was no way for that to even happen anyway. So it was kind of a moot question.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Was there anyone there that spoke Portuguese?
No. I believe that they may have had a translator on the phone.
Right.
But to directly speak Portuguese, no.
Right.
Yeah.
So you were there for what Rolling Stone wrote about, the using the kids as bait.
Yes.
Is this something that you feel comfortable talking about?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So from how I understand it, is she was working.
Right.
And ICE had surrounded a car with her 2 daughters in it, right?
Yeah.
And so that we get the big, splashy, obviously horrible Rolling Stone headline about how ICE used the kids as bait to get the mom over there. Mm-hmm. Was that what you experienced?
Yeah. We were there for probably 10 minutes, and then a woman started walking up from behind us. So about where Main Street was, she was walking down Eureka toward them. And then I quickly realized she walked up to them and that she started talking to them, and one of the officers pulled her off and started talking to her a little bit further away from us so we couldn't hear what was being said.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. But then eventually there's she talks to the ICE agents for a while, and then they decide to take her, and the daughters come out of the car. I don't know what was that. Did they say anything about this after that conversation, or did anybody? It's just seems so weird. I don't know.
No, from what we understood, just from picking up, bits and pieces of the conversation, was that they were waiting on the lawyer to come from Burlington. I don't know whose lawyer it was, if it was the girl's lawyer or if it was the mom's lawyer.
Okay.
So it was going to be a bit of a drive, and that's kind of what everybody was hanging around waiting for,
Right.
is for that, the lawyer to get there.
So when did the lawyer stop becoming a concern? Because no lawyer arrived, as far as I know.
Yeah, I think she came after, the shit hit the fan. So I'm sure she was very surprised to walk into that, unfortunately.
Right, but the shit hit the fan when they were putting her in the car. So
Yeah.
what is the point of the lawyer even showing up if they're already loading her into the car?
Yeah, I don't know. I couldn't tell you, honestly.
It's just, I'm not like demanding answers of you. I'm just trying to point out this is like so opaque, and ICE doesn't tell anybody anything
Yeah.
about what they're doing. And like Chris was talking about earlier, they had like plastic badges on with no names, and there's been stories about how there's been like a huge spike in people just buying these like green gray tactical vests that make you look like ICE, and you're not, and they did not assure anybody that they were who they said they were.
Yeah.
Not that it would be better if they were who they said they were.
Yeah, I know. It's strange because you're seeing people who are, you're used to seeing, agents that are wearing nice clothes. They're, got clean, high and tight. You know what I mean? These are people who have been, these agents have supposedly been working for ICE for, a long time. These guys did not look like that. They were
Right.
wearing jeans, plain clothes. One of them was wearing plain clothes, but was clearly carrying a firearm in his pocket.
Yeah.
And wouldn't identify himself either.
Oh, I think I saw a picture. So there was everyone. Like four of them were like hard-oed out. They got their tactical vests and stuff. They got their like cargo pants. But there was one guy who was just there in like jeans and a t-shirt, right? He was like kind of frumpy looking.
And he looked very uncomfortable too. Yeah, he really did. He was really avoiding kind of any of the interacting with any of the bystanders.
Have you seen a picture of this guy or anything?
Yeah, I have, and yeah, he stuck out to me. That's for sure. And I know I've talked about it before, but like unfortunately, I've seen ICE come and snatch people many times in some of my prior work, and it looked different. And I would say a lot of these things I've seen since. Since Trump took over and since the tone and tenor of things with that agency seemed to have changed. It's probably worth saying too. Another thing that I don't think we've really had any confirmation of, because as with everything, we're not really getting any kind of useful information. But if there were guns for hire there, that certainly wouldn't be the first time that it seems like that has happened. We know ICE is pulling people in from other agencies. We've seen ATF and Border Protective Services and other federal agencies, but there's also, I think, some pretty credible anecdotal information, at least, that they may just be, hiring Blackwater dudes or other sort of mercenary agents. That I am purely speculating. I think that's probably clear, but I should just say it. But that's the vibe that I got from that.
Yeah.
Was that maybe these were some contracted folks who may not work for any federal agency. We really don't know. But
Right.
yeah, that guy really stuck out to me.
Yeah. Well, not to get too far afield, but the Blackwater guy, Eric Prince, is like trying to get a federal contract to build out like a whole new set of for-profit detention centers to facilitate ICE removals. And there's
Yeah.
like $40 billion. I was just doing a whole sort of like news rundown of recent ICE activity because after Worcester, they have not let up on Massachusetts one bit. It has been really, really bad here. I mean, there was the high-profile stuff in Martha's Vineyard.
Yeah, and Nantucket.
In Nantucket. And I don't know, I guess we should talk about it right now. Doesn't seem like we're getting much help from our state government. I don't know. Ashley, are you following this stuff with Maura Healey?
Yeah, a bit.
Yeah.
It's just kind of been disappointing.
Right.
And so I haven't really been putting a whole lot of faith in, keeping up with what she's saying.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I've read a bit.
Yeah, she was like, well, after the Martha's Vineyard thing, she says, yeah, I have some questions about this. But then literally last night it broke that she's trying to have like a dinner with Tom Homan, they call him the border czar, which is a crazy thing because like no one even really knows what his title is or what he like vaguely oversees the Department of Homeland Security. And Maura Healey is trying to have freaking whining and dining with him.
Yeah,
like,
beer summit.
Yeah, beer. So yeah, it's rough. It's rough stuff. But Ashley, sort of what motivated you to become invested in this issue in the first place?
Why not? Why not? You know what I mean? Like if something's happening that, you want to change in the community, you have to take an active role in changing it, you know, and this is scary stuff. I don't want, armed, unidentified people on the streets, terrorizing the community. And I think a lot of people don't want that. And a lot of people signed up for rapid response trainings because of that.
Yeah.
So the rapid response trainings are provided by Neighbor to Neighbor and Luce?
Luce, yeah. And with ACLU as well.
Okay,
yeah.
Great. And those are still going on?
They are.
Okay.
Yep, they are. You can still reach out to Luce hotline and tell them you want to volunteer, and there's a lot of different roles that you can take. You don't necessarily have to be a rapid responder. There's other things that you can do as well.
Yeah, I was talking to a few people from Luce a couple weeks ago, and it seems like the system is pretty sophisticated, and the more people that get involved, the more sophisticated it can be. But like, there's like a dispatch system and like a tip line and all of this stuff. Right. Yeah, it's pretty neat. Outside of Eureka Street, how has it been working with that organization?
Good. I don't want to give the illusion that I'm like super involved in organizing with Luce. I have done several trainings, but but I don't, I certainly don't, I'm not a leader in the network at all.
Right.
But it's been great. It's been beneficial. Certainly, people who don't have to be invested in Worcester in particular are over here doing trainings all the time. Yeah, so it's been a good organization to get hooked up with.
Great. Yeah, it seems like if you want to do anything on this issue, it's not going to happen through like expressly political channels,
Right.
Because even Andrea Campbell, did you see, Chris, that Andrea Campbell put out a Know Your Rights training, and the not a training, a Know Your Rights advisory.
Right. Yeah.
And it very, 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 very heavily focuses on what you don't have the right to do.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's like it's no what's not your right training.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. I'm not seeing a whole lot of what's the word I'm trying to think of? We're not being proactive. We're kind of being reactive to things, and so I think that's part of the problem we're running into.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Maura Healey, I mean, I think a lot of people know this. Maura Healey, not very long ago, before, criticizing, conveniently it seems like at the moment when the Vineyard and Nantucket got hit, and a very specific type of let's say, donor and voter class were shown what this looks like in a way that is different than when it happens on Eureka Street in Worcester. That basically was like, I don't like this. I don't like the way, I don't like the tone of how this was conducted, but also just in recent weeks said emphatically Massachusetts is not a sanctuary state, and that there's really not much that the state government can or will, let's say, I would agree with her on will, do about this. Andrea Campbell, maybe in that same statement or just in the last couple of days, basically pretty explicitly said, hey, I don't know, what can we do about it? The federal government has, all kinds of powers to do whatever they want. I don't think there's much we could do, which is pretty disturbing to hear from the person that is, I guess you could say, our quote-unquote top cop in Massachusetts.
Right, yeah.
And allegedly, a progressive, whatever that means these days.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem like we're getting much from the halls of power. And so, yeah, it does feel like if we're going to do anything about this, we're going to have to do it ourselves through, collective and direct action.
Right. Yeah, and we saw what happens when you try to do that.
Right. Yeah, you one would hope for some kind of collaboration with, the powers that be, but it doesn't seem that that's gonna be what saves us.
Yeah, well, so that was only one of the things that has happened in your life that's of note.
Yes.
In the past, it feels like 4 months, but it's been 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And last week, you had to schlep on down to the Board of Election Commissioners to be asked extremely probing questions.
Right.
Like weirdly probing questions until they decided in front of you that you can't run for school committee, despite the fact that no one told you couldn't when you took out papers. No one told you couldn't when you resubmitted the papers with the 100 signatures you were supposed to get, which I'm sure was a chore. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'll just throw it to you. How does all of that make you feel about participating in Worcester politics?
I mean, I think it's meant to be a deterrent, but for me, it's certainly not. Oftentimes I wonder, like, am I on the spectrum? Because, like, sometimes I will dig my heels in when stuff like that happens, and I know that that's like one of the things that they say people who have some neurodivergencies do. I don't know. So last March I pulled papers. It was right off the bat. I knew that it was going to be a problem, honestly, right off the bat. David Webb was at the city hall and he showed me where the supervisors of elections was, and Nico was there, and automatically a pissing contest went on.
Yeah, right.
And he did mention at the time that you voted in Bolton, you're not eligible, and I was like, okay, just give me the papers, let me get out of here. And a couple emails went back and forth, like within that week of me pulling my papers. And he said he would get in contact with the city solicitor and get a final word on that. That was back in March.
Interesting.
Yeah, I never heard anything. So I got an email a couple days before signatures were due that said, hey, signatures are due. And so I said, hey, I never heard a response on whether or not you guys are telling me I'm eligible.
Yeah.
And they kind of just repeated the same information.
Yeah.
You can't work for the district. You can't work for the school district, and you voted in Bolton. And the way that I read the charter didn't exclude me at all from running. It said that I had to live in Worcester for a year, which I have, and I actually brought my lease to them that day. And they took a copy of my lease and they said, you're all set.
Well, yeah, it seems pretty cut and dry.
Right.
That, if you have a lease.
Yeah.
But for some reason, Nico shows up at that meeting with like a bunch of having done some research, it seems.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The city clerk had apparently nothing better to do. Chris, I don't know if we've talked about it or if you've watched it, but Nico was like, and we got to talk about Steve Quist after this. Because
why?
I have something to read off of my phone that I just remembered. That is amazing. But Nico gets there, and Nico has done pulled voting records and like all this other stuff, and gave like a whole presentation to the board, basically, that like he didn't say any opinion statements, but it was like, you need to vote on the information I've presented you. Painted a very clear case, but you had other, and like, it doesn't, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter,
right?
Because they're gonna do what they're gonna do, but it sounds like you had documents that like sort of got in the way of this official line about how you are this carpetbagger from Bolton or
Right.
whatever. But it was like that. There wasn't like what are you gonna do? Hire an attorney?
Right.
To like have like a hearing on this? It didn't seem like they really let you introduce evidence into the record, you know? Yeah. And this whole thing about a 1-year residence requirement anyway is like, it seems really punitive, even if it's like the difference of like a couple days, right? Because at the end of the meeting, they were really like trying to negotiate like, oh, was it in the beginning of November or the end of November? It's just, I don't know. It's nothing about it sat right with me. So where do you stand with that now? Are you going to try to appeal it? Or I don't even know if you can. I don't know how that works.
So I have been in contact with several people. The way that it would have to work would be that I would have to bring a lawsuit against the city, which is not something I'm interested in. You heard during the meeting that I am currently going through divorce. It's been 2 long years. And so that's something my children have to deal with, as well as this criminal case that Worcester PD has brought against me. And, you know, I'm also stuck doing a lot of organizing in the community because of the way things are going right now.
Right,
and so it's a lot on my kids for me to pick another battle.
Yeah.
You know? So, no, I'm not going to argue with them on the semantics of what a domicile is and whether, you know, that's...
That was so crazy.
Right. They can have that win if they'd like. It's fine with me. But, you know, I'm far more effective, I think, not on school committee than I would be on school committee. Something about, you know, decorum and rules. So, you know, honestly, okay.
Yeah.
All right. I'll see them in a couple years then, I guess.
Yeah, sure. I mean, so I forgot to even ask this question, but like, why pull papers in the first place for a school committee?
I was not real happy about what Molly turned Sue Mailman's resolution into.
Oh my God! Yeah, I've almost memory hold that. That was really bad.
Yeah, so that was my first kind of push toward doing something, so to speak.
Right.
You feel like your hands are tied as a parent in the school district when stuff like that happens. What really can you do? I mean, sure, you can send a bunch of emails to people, but as you can see, it falls on deaf ears a lot when you do.
That's right.
And so I figured running would be my next best option. And I've never run for anything before, so this was, you know, new for me.
Right.
But yeah, that's kind of what pushed me.
Right.
Not to take us off track, but to take us not off track, but I wanted to mention something that I was just speaking of things that I memory hold. Something that I remembered recently that might be news to both of you, and that I think maybe might be news to our listeners. So several years ago, I want to say it was 7 or 8 years ago now, we had a state rep seat that was vacated. One of our state rep seats in Worcester, the one that is currently now held by Mary Keith. And there was a primary for that race, and one of the people who ran was one of our infamous Worcester figures, longtime city councilor at the time, Phil Palmieri. And Phil Palmieri overtly did not live in the district, like at all. And everyone knew this. Phil Palmieri lives in a house up by Hahnemann Hospital. I don't remember the street he lives on. It was his listed address when he was a city councilor, which he was up until the time that he was running for this office. And he pulled papers saying that he lived on Shrewsbury Street in a house that I believe he might own. I don't remember, but it was his mom's house. So his mom's 3-decker on Shrewsbury Street. And everybody knew this. It was not even an open secret. It was just open. And Phil Palmieri ran for that seat. He lost because, he lost for lots of reasons, but not because he was rendered ineligible because of a residency issue. Everybody knew that he was running from a place that was not his domicile, where he didn't live and had not lived in a very long time, if he ever had. And that just wasn't an issue. So it's very interesting to see how and upon whom these sorts of things are enforced, and upon whom they are not.
Right.
So I just wanted to mention that, because I think it's a thing that a lot of people don't remember, or just didn't ever know in the first place. But yeah, that's a thing that happened. Myself and a couple of other people, I lived in the area. We would check by the house every once in a while to see if Phil's car was ever there, if he ever spent the night there. He didn't. But yeah. So I just thought that was worth
for sure
mentioning.
Well, and it's a perfect way to get into the real story here. Is that so? What happened to you to get kicked off the election commission? For listeners who don't know about the extreme fine print of Worcester City politics, is that your candidacy was challenged formally by a formal Board of Election Commissioners process that 7 or 8 people probably know about, and only one guy is going to actually go through with.
Yeah.
And that one guy probably has no problem with Phil Palmieri, because they're the same type of guy.
Safe to say.
This one guy, his name is Steve Quist, and he's a fucking psycho. And you obviously have done something to offend his delicate sensibilities. Yeah. Ashley, have you ever had any interactions with Steve Quist? Do you know what he looks like?
So actually, before I was heavily involved in Worcester politics, I was on just a bunch of political pages, because that's, on Facebook, because that's, how I doom scroll. And I was on his page specifically, and I remember thinking who is this person who keeps saying this terrible stuff, before I realized that I was in his echo chamber.
Yes.
So I was quickly blocked, as most people are.
I'm blocked.
Yeah. So I think it's a rite of passage.
Yeah, that makes 3 of us.
Yeah, I think I was preemptively blocked.
He was we're getting rid of this guy.
I don't think I ever said anything. The page, for people who want to look it up, have a good time. Worcester Politics 101.
Yes.
It is. If you couldn't find a better clinical case study for Facebook brain rot than this guy. And toward that end, he had a post about me.
Oh.
And I want to read this dramatically for you guys. He had a post about me after I said it's kind of messed up to put the police chaplain on the only police oversight board that we have, the Human Rights Commission. I was like, I don't think that's very smart. And then he said, the police chaplain said a bunch of stuff about how they're being unfair to the cops in the oversight board. So I wrote about that.
In his introductory meeting, his first meeting.
I appreciate that coverage that you did on that, honestly, because my mind was so boggled during that meeting. I was like, whoa, wait a minute. I had to do a double take and go back to ask for things to be repeated, because I was so confused by what was being said.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So I really appreciate you actually
I had to watch it a couple times myself. Yeah. So I'm gonna. This was a couple days ago, and I'm gonna do a dramatic reading. Okay. Worcester Politics 101, and I love that his header page is like Aristotle or something.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, it's like an ancient Greek guy. But anyway, so he goes, when you do a blog and rely on the subscribers paying you for the crap ass garbage you regurgitate, like the guy over at Shaner Sucks, then you get the gist of how he has to continually play to his extremist leftist frothing mob repeatedly in order to keep the buckaroos flowing into his pockets. Nothing like slandering a widely respected priest across the city, Father Slavinkus of St. Bernard Church, with slander. I love that. Nothing like slandering someone with slander. Slander,
rumors, slurs, and insults that just confirm for city residents how much of a craving lunatic Shaner Sucks truly is. The mealy-mouthed carpetbagger from out of town attacks our WPD, respected officials and residents across the city so he can feed that to his paid subscriber suckers. It's all about raking in the Benjamins with a $sign while riling up the radical extremists to keep them tuned in and turning over the greenbacks. God, he sounds like freaking like local Alex Jones. There's 2 more paragraphs, but I can't do it.
Oh, really? 2 more?
Yeah. This just repeats the same thing.
He's turning the Human Rights Commission gay.
Made him big mad.
He's so mad. And then, like, as if to prove the entire point that I was making with that story, the only 2 comments are from 2 police union officials. Rick Cipro and Anthony Petroni, and both of them are like, "Oh man, brother," and Anthony Petroni called for a boycott of businesses to hurt my bottom line, which means he doesn't understand how to make money, and called me a socialist noisemaker, which, true.
Yes.
You got me. But shit. So 2 things I still want to touch on with this meeting.
Yeah.
And I want to insert the clip here probably because I have it on my desktop. Mm-hmm. Why the fuck was that lady talking to your kid that way?
To your daughter. Your son. I'm sorry. Excuse me? Do you talk in class when your teachers are talking? Okay. Well, here you need to be quiet. Okay? Don't make faces at me.
You know, people just, they really think that they're helping. So my kid obviously is super ADHD. And, you know, probably some other stuff. He hasn't had a neuropsych eval in a while, but I am an IEP mom. And honestly, it's kind of what got me thinking about running for school committee is because I advocate for him constantly anyway. It's something that I've had to do since he entered school. And he's got some behaviors. But the thing about kids with behaviors is that you have to understand them and work with them. And part of that is not getting into power struggles with children, with literal children. And it's just, you know, it's honestly something that I've had to practice over time, not getting in a power struggle with my own kid. But like, you really start to learn about like what things are like meaningful to press on, you know what I mean? And it's certainly not like, you know, fidgeting and making, you know, faces during a meeting.
Yep.
But you know, whatever makes people feel good, I guess. Yeah.
It was crazy. It's like, lady, this is not, what you're doing is not important.
Yeah, no.
She was like, how dare you behave this way in these exalting chambers.
Oh my gosh, people just don't understand that kids are kids. They're not small adults. They're literally children.
Yeah.
You know?
Their frontal cortexes aren't connected to the rest of their brains in an adult way yet. It's a thing we know about kids.
Right.
Also, if making faces and fidgeting during a boring-ass public meeting is an offense, I have certainly committed it hundreds of times.
I'm going straight to jail.
Straight to jail.
Yeah. His behavior is something that we've had to focus on for a long time. Actually, up until very recently, we were doing 4 hours a week of in-home behavioral therapy, and none of it included getting in power struggles with him.
Yeah.
You know, you need consistency when you work with kids like this, and definitely what was happening in that meeting was not on his behavior plan.
Right.
So, yeah, I was a bit confused by that too.
Yeah, I mean, it just shows, like, I think it did a really good job of showing like the motivations for some of these people who just like get involved in city politics to like feel important,
right?
Like to have like a to have this like respect that they feel they're owed, and that they don't really care what they do with it. They don't have like a theory of change. They just like want to be important.
Yeah.
Which I don't know, but
whatever floats your boat. I guess.
Yeah, whatever floats your boat. But like that video exists forever now for that lady it's not a good look. I can't wait to splice that clip in. And Chris, if you haven't seen it yet, you're in for a treat.
I after I read your article, I went and found it immediately because I was like, "What the fuck did that happen?" And yeah, I saw it. And if anything, you undersold it.
Yeah,
it's pretty fucking cringe.
Yeah, it's real bad. But no, I think you were about to say something.
Far be it from me to not get help with my kids, right? When I say I'm a single parent, I am a solo parent. I do this on my own, and I have been doing it on my own for 2 years now.
Right.
And so anybody that wants to, chip in and come take these kids off my hands every so often, that's great. But it's just, people just don't understand. And it's the same reason I can't leave him with any babysitter either. It has to be somebody who understands kids.
Yeah.
Because when you take someone like him out in public, you have people who have some things to say.
Yeah. Well, that's definitely 100% the election commissioner's fault, and nothing to do with your kid, even a little bit. But I guess on a more serious note, the way that this plays into, me and Chris have talked about it before, but the district system, I'm not sure how familiar you are with like the history on why we have a district system. So quickest version possible, there was like a racial equity lawsuit that was like Worcester School Committee, and the way that it gets elected is it excludes people of color from serving.
Yes, I read
So they had a bunch of different ways they could have gone with it to make it more inclusive. The way that they ended up going with it was this insane 6-district system on top of a 5-district city council system that has led to a guy from the Chamber of Commerce running unopposed 2 times in a row. Molly McCullough can keep that seat for the rest of her life. She's basically a congresswoman. And no market increase in the amount of people of color serving on that board.
In fact, a decrease.
In fact, it allowed for like the fucking a townie like backlash. Maureen Bignetta got back on the board. Kind of like definitely Diana Biancaria got back on that board because of the change. And that was like the lawsuit didn't say you have to change to this specific thing. It was like Joe Petty and company decided that this is the option out of the number of options that we're going to pick. They could have gone with ranked choice voting, but didn't.
I'm not surprised.
So, how many years later? 4?
This will be the second election that we have under this system.
Right. So 4 years later, we have Molly McCullough, a white woman on the West Side who is objectively a political insider, is walking unopposed now to a victory to keep the District A seat after doing some really shitty anti-trans stuff that we talked about earlier. And the most psychotic white townie in the city was able to single-handedly make sure that happens by kicking you off the board, off the election, or off the ballot. I don't know, words, whatever words mean. He was able to single-handedly accomplish that. So that is the legacy so far of this change in the name of racial equity. Another big win for Joe Petty. But anyway, where was I going with that? Ashley, let's just talk about your observations of Worcester.
Okay.
Let's just talk about that.
Let's talk about it.
Let's talk about your observation. What's wrong with us? What is wrong with this city?
Yeah. One of the first things I noticed was that people seem a little like scared of each other here. Like even people in the same circles, you know what I mean?
Right.
People are like a little like leery, is that the word I'm looking for, about who they're interacting with. And I guess I guess it kind of makes sense when I'm like seeing how underhanded things are here, how passive aggressive things are.
Extremely.
Yeah, so I guess people having like a critical lens when they're dealing with their neighbor makes sense.
Yeah. Are they an enemy? I mean, that's a
Right.
pretty interesting observation. Worcester is a city of enemies that are all suspicious of each other.
Right, and that can't work when you're trying to organize.
Yeah.
It can't work. You have to really trust the people that you're working with in order to get anything done.
Right, right. And you have to, organizing is all about the numbers, so you have to be able to reach that critical mass without descending into hater behavior that creates infighting.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is a deep problem with this place.
Yeah.
I think you might be onto something if you want to like figure out the one place to start for what's wrong with us.
Right. Yeah. I don't know.
Everyone's the enemy.
I did very little organizing before moving up here from Florida, but I was involved a little bit, and it did seem that more organizations worked together. For instance, the Florida Indigenous Alliance was heavily involved with the Black Lives Matter Tampa movement. So there was a lot more trust, I think, and collaboration in Florida, where I did what little I did before.
Yeah.
But again, I am not like a professional like activist or organizer. I certainly, don't have all of the answers.
Right. But you're somebody who saw what's going on and wanted to get involved.
Yeah.
Right. So, and that's like the kind of people that we want to get more. Like that's what we need in order to have a healthy, community and civic society.
Well, that's the kind of people we want. Whether that's the kind of people that those in power and influence want, I think is maybe a very different answer. But yeah, that's a very astute observation. The factionalism that goes on here. It's interesting you brought up BLM organizing, because there are many examples I could point to and talk about. But that was a perfect example here in Worcester. A lot of the organizing that happened between, the death of Michael Brown, and a lot of the organizing that happened between the death or murder of Michael Brown and the murder of George Floyd locally was even people within those activist circles, in my observation, even people within those activist circles really kind of infighting on levels of distrust and on who had the power, who got money and resources, who got, air and attention. And yeah, it's a really hard environment to organize in, and it's not unique to Worcester, but we do it worse than most places that I've organized.
Yeah, there's a thing where it's like I'll run them even among people I really respect, where it's like these weird sort of like long-standing and very niche beefs where you will like lose access to somebody a little bit if they see you talking to somebody else. That's like even like a little is like maybe 2 shades away from where you are, and you have some sort of like quibbling disagreement that it just goes back like years and years. I don't know. It's a hard thing to navigate. It's a very complex social web.
Yeah, and I don't know anybody either, so it's funny to see me immediately becoming victim to that. I didn't know anybody before like a few weeks ago.
Well, you'd probably do better just Mr. Magooing your way through it, because like nobody wants to be like we don't want to be like this. Like I feel like if somebody came around and was just like, you don't have to be like this, we'd be like, wait. Oh,
well,
shit,
here
you're
I
right.
am.
Oh shit, you're right. We don't actually have to.
You don't have to be like this, Worcester.
That's my dream, for somebody to come and be like,
just come in. They're like freaking Moses parting the Red Sea of just catty towny behavior. And you don't have to be like this.
It's not going to be from one single person, though. It's going to be everybody finding, that they're not effective enough doing things the way that they're doing them, and that they need to stop that right now.
Right.
And stop making faces at each other.
Yeah. Because that's a very interesting observation that you brought up too, about like it kind of mattering more who's getting the contracts or the grants or the shine, and not like what's happening.
Yeah, and I mean to flesh that out a little bit more, it is I try to tell people that it is a tactic. It is a tactic of the state, and it's a tactic of power to sow those divisions, and we walk into that brick wall every fucking time. And it is why there are never enough funds, there are never enough community block grants. When we have something like the ARPA funding, for example, you have this dynamic that plays out yet again, where more established and moneyed and connected organizations wind up getting all the funding, and the scrappier organizations are left fighting for the crumbs of that, and ultimately left fighting with each other for the crumbs of that. And that is going to sort of necessarily create some of these divisions and hostilities, and the not to let people who do that off the hook for doing it, because it is your responsibility not to do it. But it's not a dynamic of our creation at the grassroots level. It's a dynamic of the creation of the people who control that money and that power and make it that way. It creates those hostilities and divisions, and that's exactly the way that they like it. And so, I would just, I guess, remind people that when you do that, you're playing into the hands of entrenched power. And so you shouldn't. You should really try to resist that.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Damn. Yeah, I don't know how we possibly wake people up to that, but there are bad guys. I feel like that's a big failing of journalism, especially like when the bad guys are liberals. Like there really are bad guys. Like Ed Augustus, Eric Batista, Joe Petty, Tim Murray. These are the bad guys.
People don't get a pass just because they're liberal. That maybe even makes things even more difficult.
Yeah. It's
not
almost
being
like
honest about what you're doing here.
Yeah.
It's almost like that's the point.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, and then you lose on purpose, but fundraise off of it. Wow.
It's a big plan.
Anyway, Ashley, what else do we have to talk about? What else are we talking about? What's going on?
I have met a lot of wonderful people.
Yeah.
That I don't think I would know if all of this didn't happen.
Yeah.
So in a way, I'm grateful for that. I probably, as a single parent, you don't go out much. So I'm not out here meeting people, on the regular. So it's been nice. Worcester, if I was ever going to leave, I'm not going to now.
Yeah.
Just on principle.
Fuck yeah.
Cannot get me out of here now. I will buy a house here and dig my heels in.
You hear that, Nico?
Yeah. Lifer by spite. I love it.
Yeah.
You fucking did this. Your fault.
Yeah. It's I'm super happy here though, honestly. Despite, we have bullshit happens everywhere. It happens everywhere, and the stuff that happened with the police would happen in another town too.
Oh yeah.
I'm not disillusioned by that, and I'm not thrown off by that.
Good.
It is what it is.
Yeah.
I have always been, most of my adult life, been an abolitionist, somebody who really kind of studies carceral logic and criminalizing people and for what. And I think, the things that have happened to me recently just give me another a deeper dive into that mindset.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, one of the Worcester stories that's like canonical, that's like legend, that's like a real identity forming thing for even like somebody like Joe Petty would be like, oh yeah, that's right, was when we chased the slave catchers out of, or one slave catcher out of the city back in 1850s or whatever.
Yeah, like late antebellum time. So yeah, probably 1850-ish. I don't remember the exact date.
Right. So it's like we use that now in like the hindsight of like 150 years or whatever to be like, yeah, that's Worcester pride, that's Worcester spirit. But at the time, everyone involved in that was breaking the law in some way. And everyone who takes so much pride in that story, a good amount of them are the ones now saying, well, yeah, but you can't. If you touch an ICE agent, then it's your fault, right. And you deserve whatever happens to you if you touch if you touch an ICE agent. Right. We cannot interfere in federal people disappearing. And these are the same people that like will happily tell the slave catcher story to anyone who will listen. But Ashley, your actions, I will say, they're much closer to the slave catcher story, running the slave catcher story out of Worcester legend, than almost anybody else in the city. And I'm proud of you, and I think you should be proud.
Awesome. Thank you. I am not proud of myself. It's a lot of trouble that I got myself into.
I don't imagine you would be.
But
especially not when you're still in the thick of it.
But this happens to people. This is what happens to people when revolutions start, right? Mm-hmm. People get arrested. It happens every single time, and it's going to continue happening because, as we are discussing, the things that are criminalized are the good work that we're doing, right?
Right.
Eventually the tides will turn like they did, and now if you chased a racist out of town, it wouldn't be illegal, but we're on the right side of history. I think we'll see that in the future. Mm-hmm. I'm not, ashamed to have charges brought against me. I've known a lot of wonderful people who have been incarcerated.
Yep.
And that's no reflection on them, and it's no reflection on me.
Yeah. That's absolutely fantastic. I'm glad that you're looking at it that way, because that's become way too much of a black mark in our society in ways that are really, really, really telling that no one talks about. Life is really hard for people who have felonies. You can't get an apartment, you can't get a job. Mm-hmm. I think there is a program going on right now where you can have your record expunged or closed or something like that.
Sealing Corey sealing and other kinds. That was a lot of years and years of organizing by a lot of people to have people not have to disclose their criminal record when applying for a job, and then also to be able to go through that process to have a clean slate in the eyes of someone that might rent from them or their employer, etc. It took a lot of work by a lot of activists, and there's a lot more work to do. Mm-hmm. It's what we have is better than what we did have, but it's by no means as good as it could be. Mm-hmm. But yeah, totally.
But I will say that, just personally, this is just my opinion. I don't see it getting that far because this case is not they don't have a very good case. Don't say anything. Yeah, don't say anything.
I won't.
I don't know about this one, but I guess we'll just have to wait. Is there anything that people can do to support you? Oh my fucking God. We didn't even talk about that.
What?
Your GoFundMe.
You want to talk about the GoFundMe?
Yeah, let's talk about it.
Holy fucking shit.
Let's talk about it, actually.
Let's talk about that, because that was fucked.
Yeah.
God damn it, I pitched a story about that to a couple pretty serious places, and one of the people seemed very interested, and then they moved on, and I had to cover some other fucking crazy thing that was happening. Fuck, but this is such a I cannot believe I gotta like rearrange this episode so that we talk about this first.
Yeah.
So you put up a GoFundMe after the Eureka Street incident, and you raise a good chunk of change pretty quickly, right? Like 12 grand?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, right. Then out of nowhere, a couple days later, GoFundMe just pulls it.
They did. Yeah.
Because I found out about it because I gave you like, I don't know, $50 or whatever, and I just got an email, no explanation, just being like, your thing has been refunded. And like people were like messaging me being like, what happened? My thing was refunded. And they didn't say why. So, God damn. It's like, I'm aware of some of this, but why don't you just like, what happened with, you talked to the GoFundMe people, right?
Yeah, initially I thought it had something to do with, because I had started the process of transferring the money over to my bank account. And so I thought, oh, maybe that triggers like, them to kind of put everything on pause to make sure that it's legit. And maybe it did. Maybe that is what triggered it. I'm not sure. Or it got reported. Who knows? Knowing what happened afterward with the election commission, I wouldn't be surprised if it just got reported and taken down.
Yeah, I was going to say, I know a certain someone I might suspect might be responsible for that. Anyway.
But they sent me an email and asked me to verify some things, what the money would be used for. And I didn't write the initial GoFundMe. My niece in Florida, who's a school teacher in Florida, she put it up for me. And so she wrote all of that. And so I kind of wrote back and gave them a little lowdown on what was going on. And one of the things that the GoFundMe had said was that it will help me with any future legal expenses. And apparently that was what the problem was, because one of their rules says that you can't fundraise for certain crimes. However, the language that I used was very vague, and I don't currently have any legal fees, so it wasn't going actually toward any kind of legal fees for my criminal case that I have right now.
Right.
It was actually going for living expenses because at the time I was on unpaid leave from the school district.
Right.
So I wrote them back and I told them, hey, this is actually for my living expenses. I have a ton of legal fees, but they're in the probate system. They're not, with my other case. But they basically just kind of said, we do what we want, whatever.
Yeah, right. So when did they offer any sort of explanation, or did they just ghost on you?
They ghosted me. They totally ghosted me. And it's another one of those things where it's like, how much more can I invest in this?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm dealing with so many other things right now, not just the now stuff that's happening with the legal, case and losing my job. Like, I have a whole other life outside of that where I have to deal with stuff. And how much can I just keep devoting to these little things that keep happening?
Right. It's just crazy. Just like the election commission, you got like the least, what's the word? Forgiving interpretation of the rules. They get GoFundMe through the book at you. And the reasons why are pretty fucked up, I think.
Yeah.
I think that you could safely assume or intune that this is in keeping with the broader trend of tech companies looking at the new deportation and surveillance apparatus being built and being like, there's going to be a lot of contracts. We got to cozy up. We got to cozy up to ICE. We got to follow Peter Thiel down this road. See how we can use our software to help this out. Just in general, there's just like all of Silicon Valley is moving in that direction, is moving towards right-wing authoritarianism and deportations and such. So Hard to imagine that GoFundMe is much different. You'll never get a clear explanation on it, but
No, I won't. I did have a wonderful conversation with HR through the school district, though, and I am being paid until the end of the school year.
good.
Yeah, Worcester Public Schools has been something that I have believed in since I moved here.
Yeah.
With my kid with, the IEP, and he was not doing so hot when we first started. And they really kind of whipped him into shape, and he's an excellent student now.
Yeah.
They've really done well by me, and I enjoyed my job there. I was well liked.
Yeah.
And I worked regularly. I worked as a sub nurse, and there was a little bit of confusion about like, how do we deal with the situation, because a sub nurse, when they get put on leave, doesn't get paid. However, I was still working 20 hours a week consistently with the same students every week, and so it was kind of a situation that was a gray area for them. They had to go through and kind of make some new rules and new decisions about how they were going to do things. So they've been supportive. They've been great.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
It seems so. That's really good to hear that the school district didn't go the way of the election commission and GoFundMe, because they could have thrown the book at you.
They could have also,
And believe me, if Maureen Binenda was the superintendent, they would have.
Yeah.
Hard.
Yeah. I shed a tear for Dr. Menares again.
Me too. I don't see us pulling something off like that again, honestly.
That's why we can't have nice things.
Exactly. No, she's great, but obviously no hard feelings towards Rachel personally. It's just, it was nice to have to see what things could be like if we had competent executives, with competent executives with good intentions. And not what is the word I used in the last post? A sick little posse of mediocre towny whites. Yeah, that's what we're dealing with here. That is the election commissioner. I don't even remember her name. That talked to your kid that way.
Yeah, Van der Specht, I think.
Yeah, Steve Quist.
Yeah, it's nice to have a fresh perspective, right? I'm a fresh perspective in Worcester. Dr. Menares was a fresh perspective in Worcester. I think that was the whole point of doing, a nationwide search, was to get somebody who wasn't going to just keep things status quo.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
We need that desperately for the city manager.
Yeah, I was just thinking about Bill. Steve Quist talking about you also essentially as being some Johnny-come-lately carpetbagger to Worcester. I don't know down to the day or minute how long you've been here, but you've been here quite some time, and you're not from very far away also. You're a Central Mass lifer, and it's so... the way that those types of people think is so the opposite of a fresh perspective. That's the last thing that they want. I've been here 21 years as of this past weekend, and I joke with people, but it's not really a joke, that there are people that think that I'm a newcomer to town. You only been here 21 years. You didn't go to preschool and the rest of your life never leaving Worcester. One of the things that used to blow my mind when I was on the Citizen Advisory Council was people would come in and interview for these citizen boards and commissions, and they all have specific purposes, right? Like the Election Commission does what the Election Commission does, the Human Rights Commission does what it does, and these people would come in and they, a lot of times, wouldn't talk at all about what they were going to bring to the commission, like what their thought process was or what their experience was. They would talk about how long they've been in Worcester. I went to the Worcester Public Schools. I went to college at Holy Cross. I've never left the city. I've never taken a vacation, and that was what people thought we wanted to hear. And I think in some cases they weren't wrong about that. But it's very interesting.
I have to tell this story because it reminded me. Kate Toomey at the police budget hearing was telling a mythical tale, where she was like, people in I've heard this, people who travel, people who go outside the city, in airports, in all the airports, they're talking about Worcester. And it's like, first of all, no, they're fucking not. Second of all, who told you this and why did it stick? Why do you think people are just talking about Worcester in the airports? And then number 3, why is that a good thing? Right?
Yeah, well, and like,
cares?
not to, this episode is not about me, although I make all of them about me to some degree, I'm sure. But I've talked about this a lot when I was more active in actual politics in the city, in electoral politics, and outside of helping people that I really think are genuinely good and productive candidates. I really don't do that anymore. I definitely found the limitations of that kind of work. But I used to talk a lot about like when I moved here, and still to this day, but like certainly before Worcester was, going through this quote unquote renaissance, and everyone wants to live in Worcester, and they're talking about us in the airport. They would talk all the time about, we've got we got these young professionals in there, these people, they come in for school, but then they leave. We've got to find ways to keep these people here. And I would tell elected officials in the city, I'm the person you're talking about. Like, I moved here in my early 20s, and I decided that I liked it here, and I decided I wanted to stay. I am that young professional who's from somewhere else, who came here and is living here and trying to, integrating into the community and getting involved and getting active. And you treat me like shit, and you don't listen to anything I say. Like, you don't actually want what you say you want. I'm what you say you want. And like, you're antagonistic to me constantly. And everyone like me, not just me.
Right.
It's almost like they don't know what they want.
I mean, I got here a year ago and they've already arrested me.
That's true. You've got me beat there.
That's true. Oh man. Yeah. It's almost like they have no idea what they want, and besides having something to be mad at.
Worcester is such a beautiful place too. Like there is really 100 million reasons why you would not want to leave Worcester, and it's not just because now I'm angry and now I'm going to stay here forever. It's a great place to raise your kids. The school system is amazing.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. The parks are great.
Yeah.
Charles Lester might have something to say about that.
Oh God.
But.
I hadn't thought about that guy in like a whole 3 days. Thanks a lot.
And another thing.
High five, Charles Lester. But they certainly aren't super welcoming. They certainly aren't super welcoming to those of us who have found ourselves in Worcester, Mass.
Yeah. It's almost like prison rules. Where you got to come in and just be mean to everybody in order to get along. It has been going great for me so far.
Awesome.
Been doing it for 8 years, I think. When did I start at Worcester Magazine?
Dude, don't look at me.
8 years. 2016, 2017. Immediately, fucking threw the metal lunch tray at the biggest bully in the city.
There you go.
And I guess that's just how you have to do it. You can't back down. You got to dig in. So Ashley, you have the right impulses there. Mm-hmm. Dig in. Be annoying. Mm-hmm. But none of this is going to change overnight. It's like overthrowing the abscess tooth in the middle of the head of Worcester is going to take a long time, but they're not adding people to the bench, did you guys see Candy Merrill Carlson's campaign slogan?
No, what is it?
It is Candy Merrill Carlson, and then up on top it says, "Back to the regularly scheduled programming."
Oh.
Yeah. Like,
what?
Talk about the absence of a vision, right?
Yeah.
She's just like, vote for me.
We're going to keep shit exactly the same.
Because we're going to keep, not even like we're going to keep shit exactly the same. Vote for me to make sure no one ever tries again to do anything different. And then also calling it programming kind of reveals like Candy's motivations for being on the city council.
Yeah.
And like, does she see herself as the main character in a reality TV show that people at the senior center watch?
Yeah. Funny story, actually. This house is literally on like the line for District 1 and District 2.
Oh, okay.
For the longest time, I thought she was my counselor.
Yeah.
So I was messaging her about stuff. There's a sign that came down out here or whatever. And I will say, she responded to me. She responded to me on Facebook. I shouldn't have to reach out to my counselor in order to get the DPW to do anything. But lo and behold, it's actually Jenny Pasillo who's
okay. Yeah, they that actually so Keith Linares has been making that point. He's running for District 1. That you shouldn't have to be able to personally lobby your city councilor for basic city services. That idea came up at a recent city council meeting, and Mo Bergman and George Russell and Kenny Merrill Carlson, they all flipped the fuck out, because that's what they like about the job. They like being able to hook it up, for their homies. It's kind of all they're there for.
He had some really great ideas. I really appreciated his basic, hey, let's put this stuff on an Excel sheet so people can see where their project is in line. Make sure that, other stuff is not getting done because people are, friendly with the counselors. He's got some wonderful ideas.
Yeah. It'd be a shame if they punished him out of caring. But surely they will try.
Yeah. Yep.
I hope he digs his heels in.
Yeah, so Keith, if you're listening, you got to be a little bit, narrow divergent about it. You dig in your heels.
That's right.
You got to dig in your heels.
You got to have a touch of the tism.
Yeah. I mean, and it's in the water here or something. So you were rewarded for it when you do it, I think, because it's kind of the only language we understand here. Mm-hmm. Worcester is if only the very last chapter of Lord of the Rings happens. So no one goes to Mordor, no ring gets thrown in the fire, but Sauron does descend on a small village of hobbits and industrialize it and make everyone there bitter and miserable. But Frodo and Sam don't come back and lead the revolt against it. It's just we're living in what would have happened if that didn't happen 150 years later.
So we're just walking around pissy and scared of each other.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's Sauron's fault.
Checks
but
out.
Who is the Worcester Sauron? Who's that guy that was in the John Birch Society?
God.
Yeah, he was just in a story about art heists, in Esquire.
Oh yeah, shit. That's why I'm remembering.
What the hell is his name?
Oh God.
He was the founder of the John Birch Society, and he started the Telegram. But anyway, Ashley, I think we have kept you long enough. Thank you so much for coming on the show. This was a delight. This was a treat, and I'm really glad to hear that you are not getting bludgeoned out of giving a shit about this place.
Oh no.
You got it?
Robert Stoddard.
That's the Sauron of Worcester.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. The spiritual ancestor of Mo Bergman. But anyway, Ashley, any closing words? Any wisdom you'd like to leave our listeners with?
Oh gosh, I feel so unprepared for this. I'm just gonna make faces at everybody.
That's good. It's a podcast, so it'll come through. Yeah.
Yes. Can you say bye?
Bye.
Bye.
Yeah, thank you.
Podcast.
My final thoughts are, we are going to continue doing what we're doing.
Yep.
We are not going to be deterred by the constant blows that the city is throwing at us, and and we're gonna volunteer, and we're gonna volunteer for other campaigns, and we're gonna work until November comes, because we need to put some effort in, and we're not going to be scared of each other, and we are going to get this done. But I thank you for having me on and talking to me about this. And you're right, I'm not going anywhere.
Awesome.
I'm in it for the long haul.
In it for the long haul. That's what we love to hear. What's your dog's name again?
This is Lainey.
Lainey. Any last words?
Any last
Lainey,
words?
speak.
Any last words?
Lainey, speak.
Well, you have. Yeah. There it is. Last word. Well, Ashley, you have a lovely backyard here, and it was really nice to be able to spend some time in it. All right.
my ambition to talk about something that is not quite so mind-numbingly depressing all the time. I found a really neat little gem of a thing on the internet lately, and as it turns out, I think you also did a completely different one. But I found this cool thing. We'll link to some links about it. But I found this cool thing that other people might have heard about called Internet Road Trip. Have you heard about this or seen it? Yeah. So Internet Road Trip, again, we'll link it, is this guy who makes these like cool little like web app games, and he made one where basically it's just Google Maps, but it has like a little interface of a car, and just whoever is on the webpage at any given time can vote, and it's just driving this fake car through Google Maps wherever people decide it should go. And so everybody votes, go straight, take a left, take a right, honk the horn, change the radio station. But it has been, I have been having such a fun time going on and watching it and just interacting with it. Right now, it's up in Canada somewhere. I didn't look today. The last I checked, I think they were in Nova Scotia. And you'll be able to check out and see where they are right now. But people are just driving this fake car around Google Maps and taking it places. When I made a little video recording that I may or may not have time to actually put together before this comes out. But I had jumped on and wound up spending a couple hours completely transfixed as people were driving it to what I think is the world's largest axe. That's just outside, like on display in this little town. And it was so fun. Like everyone was getting so excited as they were getting towards the axe, and everyone was telling people which way to turn and stuff. And then people, quote unquote, stopped the car outside of the axe, and everybody beeped the horn 10 times, because that's a thing that you can do. It also has a radio. It picks, like, it selects internet radio from nearby where the car is. And so it spent a couple days mostly listening to WBOR, which is Bowdoin College's radio station.
Oh, okay.
And Bowdoin actually found this out, and they were interacting, like they were playing music for the people that were listening.
Oh, no shit.
And like they were aware of this. People made like a big online like thank you like poster board for the radio station for like all the good music that they played. There's an article about that as well that we'll link to. But anyway, that's been my fun little, people on the internet not being complete assholes. It felt very internet 1.0.
Yes,
very what I remember the internet being back in the funnel days. But Bill, you found a page called Fish Doorbell, right?
Oh, yeah.
I checked it out real quick, but tell me about Fish Doorbell.
Fucking Fish Doorbell, dude. It is a canal in the Netherlands that has like a gate or a lock that needs to be let out every once in a while, and they found that like a lot of fish were getting stuck by the lock. So what they did was they put an underwater live stream camera facing out from the lock, and they put it on a website with a button. And when you see a fish, you press the button. That information goes to whoever the engineer is manning the lock at that time, and it sends them a screenshot. And if they see a fish in the screenshot, they'll open the gate and let the fish through. Having this on in the background in a room, like especially a kitchen when you're making dinner or whatever, it's awesome, because 95% of the time, you don't see anything. But then you will catch, every once in a while, you will catch a fish come in a clear view, and it is so exciting. It is so fucking exciting. And the water's kind of murky, so like you can only really tell it's a fish when it gets right up next to the camera. And they have like an Instagram page and like a update newsletter and stuff where they show some pictures of some fish that are just like their nose is like touching the camera and they're just like looking at it with their fish eyes. It's so funny. It's we've had that running in the apartment pretty much dawn to dusk for the past couple weeks. It's really fucking awesome. Fish doorbell. Yeah, I gotta put the link in for that. I have grand ambitions. Katie has an old iPad that I want to completely wipe, except for Safari, and then find a way to mount that to the wall somewhere in the apartment and just have it only playing Fish Doorbell 24/7. It's just like the Fish Doorbell machine. Yeah, it's delightful. You gotta love it when the internet gets used for whimsy and not for death cult purposes.
Yeah. That was kind of, I'd been planning to talk about Internet Road Trip anyway, but yeah, when you brought up Fish Doorbell in the newsletter, I was like, that's perfect. Like, that's Kismet. We both found a little thing like that. So yeah, check those out, especially if you're feeling, kind of down in the dumps, or like there isn't too much to look forward to in the world. There is an Internet Road Trip and a Fish Doorbell that you can interact with right now, and I recommend that you do.
Great. All right. Well, we'll catch everybody next week, or you won't catch me next week because I am on vacation. I'm on vacation next week. I'll be poolside maybe, or oceanside, tiki drink in hand, but we might have something for you. So we'll catch you next week anyway.
All right. Later, everybody.
All right. See you.
Last train running between the water with the power line. Last train running around the hill. Last train leaving on the quarter hour time. Last chance to get your last thrill. This world is getting so much faster. It's too sad. Poor trains are going down slow. And I've got to keep up with the laughter. It's too bad when it's in my nature to lay low. You got me pumping and pumping and jerking like a choo-choo train. Humming and pumping and jerking like a choo-choo train. Kissing and kissing and missing like a cuckoo brain. Humming and pumping and jerking like a choo-choo train. Death like an Indian at the junction, feeling down. My head is wondering where to go. And you've got so many different trips, My face is wondering where to show. You got me pumping and pumping and jerking like a choo-choo train.
Cool.
Yeah, the Middle East downstairs, I've definitely seen more shows there than I've seen.
Okay.